The day they read my father's will, my sister cried like someone had ripped her heart out. She pressed a hand to her chest, swayed slightly, and whispered, "He promised me. He promised me everything." Every face in that quiet office turned toward her like she was the only person who had actually lost someone. I didn't cry. Not because I didn't love him. Because I'd already done my crying in hospital hallways where nobody brought tissues, where the vending machine took my money, and where my sister was always parking the car and somehow never came back. The lawyer cleared his throat. Papers rustled. My sister's mascara streaks were perfect, like she'd practiced them. She looked at me once, quick and sharp, then softened her eyes for the audience. "You're okay, right?" she mouthed. I nodded, because nodding was easier than speaking. "My name is Lena. I'm 26, and in the last year my father was alive, I became his hands when his fingers shook, his voice when his lungs gave out, and his memory when medication stole the days from him. I kept his pill schedule. I read every test result. I slept in a chair by his bed and learned how to smile at nurses while my stomach twisted into knots. My sister Mara did different work. She worked the room. When she visited, she brought dramatic flowers and loud laughter, gifts that could be photographed. She brought stories about how a dad and I talked for hours last night. She brought her boyfriend and kissed her forehead in front of everyone, like she was a brave little hero. Then she left. Always before the hard part, always before the alarms, so always before the bills. So when the lawyer said, "Mr. Halder's estate," and my sister's breath caught like a perfect cue, I understood something. She was about to perform the final scene, and she expected me to sit quietly in the background like a piece of furniture. The lawyer began with the basic information. The house. The house. The investments. The life insurance. Each item sounded like a weight dropping into a bucket. Then he said, "Per the instructions of your father, there will be a distribution to both daughters." Both. My sister's eyes flickered. Just for half a second, the mask slipped. He continued, "However, there is an affidavit submitted by Mara Halder regarding a prior agreement." My stomach sank. Affidavit. Agreement. Words that didn't belong to grief. Words that belonged to someone who'd been preparing. My sister dabbed at her cheeks and pulled a folded paper from her purse like it had been living there for weeks. "Dad made me promise," she said, voice trembling at exactly the right volume. "He told me Lena wouldn't be able to handle the responsibility. He said she's too emotional." I stared at her. Too emotional. The sister who hadn't sat by a bed in the dark calling a nurse because her father's oxygen dropped was calling me too emotional. The lawyer accepted her paper, skimmed it, and nodded slowly. "This affidavit claims your father expressed intent to place the majority of assets under Mara's control to prevent mismanagement." My sister sniffed, turned her palms upward, and looked around the room like she was asking forgiveness for carrying a burden. "Didn't want it like this," she said, "but I have to respect Dad's wishes." Respect. That word tasted like metal. The lawyer kept reading. Based on this statement and the supplementary documents provided, Mara Halder is designated as executor and primary beneficiary, with a small direct distribution to Lena Halder. Small. Direct. Like a tip tossed at a waitress. My ears rang, the office blurred at the edges, and cold. I felt 12 years old again, watching my sister charm relatives while I carried plates to the sink. The lawyer turned a page. It's ink. The lawyer turned a page. Alina Halder is to receive a one-time payment of $25,000. Mara inhaled as if she'd been struck by generosity. She reached for my hand. "See?" The lawyer cleared his throat softly, as if he felt like he was intruding on a family conversation. Mara's hands clenched in her lap. I read on. "The key attached to this letter opens box 116 at Northcrest Storage. Inside is a folder labeled Mara. It contains copies of every financial withdrawal, every signature, every document she asked me to sign when medication made me slow. Some are innocent, some are not. I kept duplicates with my attorney. If she tries to take what is not hers, I want you to use what is in that box." Mara shot to her feet. "This is insane," she snapped, dropping the grief voice completely. Dad was confused at the end. The lawyer's gaze sharpened. "Miss Halder, please sit." She sat, but her knee bounced under the table like a trapped animal. I forced myself to keep reading, even as my heart began to pound with a new kind of fear. Fear that my sister hadn't just lied. Fear she'd stolen while I was busy keeping our father alive. Here is the clause. Lena, if Mara remains executor and primary beneficiary, she must fulfill 2 requirements within 30 days of my death. First, she must submit to an independent audit of all accounts I held in the last 24 months, including any power of attorney activity. Second, she must sign a sworn statement confirming she has not coerced, deceived, or misrepresented my intent to any person, including my attorney, regarding this will. If she refuses either requirement, her executor role is revoked immediately, and the estate is to be redistributed, 50-50 between my daughters, with Lena designated executor. Mara's mouth opened. No sound came out at first, like her own lungs forgot their lines. Then she laughed, sharp and ugly. An audit? Are you kidding me? That's humiliating. The lawyer didn't look amused. It is enforceable, he said. Your father's will is explicit. My sister's eyes snapped to me, pleading and threatening at the same time. Alina, she whispered, trying to step back into the sister voice. Don't do this. We're family. Family. The word she used when she wanted forgiveness without accountability. I folded the letter slowly. My hands had stopped shaking. Something inside me had gone quiet, like a storm passing. I'm not doing anything, I said. Dad did. Mara leaned forward. You don't understand what you're risking. An investigation will drag our name through the mud. You'll ruin everything he built. I looked her dead in the face. You already gambled with what he built. The lawyer spoke again. Miss Elder, you have 30 days to comply. If you do not, the clause triggers. If you do, the audit proceeds. Either way, there will be documentation. Mara's jaw worked. She turned to the lawyer with that practiced charm, the one that always made teachers soften and relatives nod. Of course we'll comply, she said, smiling too wide. We have nothing to hide. Her gaze flicked to me. Hide. A word that suddenly felt like a confession. After the meeting, she followed me into the hallway, heels clicking like a countdown. I haven't seen it yet, I said. She grabbed my wrist. Her nails pressed crescents into my skin. You always wanted to be the good daughter, she whispered. So be good. Let this go. I looked down at her hand on me. Slowly, deliberately, I peeled her fingers off. Don't touch me again. Her eyes narrowed. You think you're brave now because Dad left you a little note? I think you're scared, I said, and watched her flinch. 3 days later, I stood in a cold storage facility that smelled like dust and old cardboard. Box 116 waited behind a chain-link door. My hands trembled again, not from fear this time, anticipation. The key slid in smoothly, like it had been waiting. Inside, exactly as Dad promised, was a folder labeled Mara, and beneath it, another labeled Lena. My sister's folder was thick. Mine was thinner, but it held something I didn't expect. Copies of my hospital receipts, the caregiver schedules, even screenshots of texts where Mara said she'd be there in an hour and never showed. Proof, not of love, but of labor. Proof that I had been the adult when adults failed. Then I opened Mara. Bank statements with withdrawals I didn't recognize. Transfers made on days Dad couldn't remember his own birthday. Duh. A power of attorney document with a signature that looked like his name but felt wrong, shaky in a way that didn't match his real shakiness. Notes in my father's neat handwriting. Mara asked for tente for taxes, claimed urgent, no taxes due. And my stomach turned. This wasn't just about inheritance. This was about a long con, one I'd been too exhausted to notice. And when the audit notice arrived, Mara called me, voice syrupy again. Let's talk, she said. We can handle this privately. No, I said. We handle it correctly. Her breathing sharpened. You're enjoying this. I stared at the folders spread across Mrs. Patel's kitchen table, the neighbor who'd let me sort everything in peace. I'm not enjoying it, I said quietly. I'm surviving it. On day 29, Mara refused to sign the sworn statement. She sent her lawyer instead, with a complaint about harassment and emotional manipulation. She thought she could drown us in words. But a clause is stronger than a story. At the follow-up meeting, the lawyer read the trigger aloud. Executor revoked. Redistribution initiated. Lena appointed executor. Mara's face went blank in a way I'd never seen. No tears, no charm, just pure calculation failing in real time. She stood, wobbling. Wobbling. Oh, this is a mistake, she said, and her voice finally cracked for real. The lawyer slid a document toward her. You may contest it, he said, but the audit findings will be part of the record. That was the moment she understood what Dad had done. He hadn't tried to destroy her. He'd built a trap that only snapped shut if she tried to steal. Outside the office, she stopped me again. But she didn't grab me this time. She just looked small. You think he loved you more, she said, and there was something almost childlike in the bitterness. I shook my head. He loved us both, I said. He just trusted me with the truth. 2 months later, the house didn't feel like a prize. It felt like an echo. But when I walked through the rooms, I didn't feel invisible anymore. I felt chosen. Not by money, but by a man who saw me when it would have been easier to look away. Mara got her half, minus what the audit recovered. She stopped calling after that. Maybe she told people her version. Maybe she cried on command. Maybe she found a new audience. But every time she tried to turn her story into my shame, I remembered the first line of Dad's letter. If you're reading this, then Mara did what Mara always does. And I smiled, because for once, she didn't get away with it.